Really exciting episode this time around. I've been trying to get you on this podcast for like months, man.
I apologize.
Yeah, but schedules, how it is, life, but so much to talk to with you. Not only, of course, your past, but you got a lot of exciting things happening now.
I do.
Yeah.
Several irons in the fire, so to speak.
Yeah, so we got a lot of great stuff to get to with the one and only Brain Seneca. It's coming your way right now on The Night Shift. This guy has done an awful lot of everything in his career. I'm really excited to have him on our latest episode. Lot to get into, of course, with his past and also all of the stuff that's even going on now. I think some of the best stuff this guy's ever done is what he's currently working on. So it's a real pleasure to bring in an old friend, Mr. Brain Seneca. Hey, Brian.
How you doing, buddy?
I'm
Pleasure
doing
to be
good.
here, man.
Yeah. Thanks for spending some time with us here. Look, we got a lot to get to, as I mentioned. I'm super excited. A little bit of inside dirt. Brian, actually, you texted me a couple of new songs before the episode. I was able to listen to them in the car on the way down. So I'm super geeked about some of the new stuff that is on the horizon that you have coming out. But we always start at the beginning. So when did the bug bite you where you knew, hey, music's something that's going to be a big, big part of my life?
I've mentioned it like lots of times. My uncle Dave Sheets is like a big brother to me. He's only like 14 years older than me, so he was more than just an uncle.
Yeah.
He gave me Meet the Beatles when I was like 6 years old, and then he gave me like Zeppelin 4 and Are You Experienced?
Good places to start.
Yeah.
And
then, as you know, I wore this for you tonight.
I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you. I love the shirt.
My cousin Teresa gave me Dressed to Kill, actually.
Okay.
Because she had just gotten Alive, which I didn't have yet because it was a 2-record set.
Right. Yeah.
And so Kiss really knocked things, to another level.
Yeah.
They were just. I try to explain to people that aren't our age that you couldn't just turn on YouTube and see your favorite bands and stuff, and they were larger. They were all, but Kiss was larger than life to me.
They were. Yeah.
And I actually went through a bassy roller phase before that.
Yeah.
Where my mom put like plaid on the bottom of my jeans and stuff. But
SATURDAY. Night. At that age, we were all Bay City Rollers fans.
Yeah, exactly. They were huge.
Yeah.
So that's where it all started. And then a buddy of mine gave me Rocks by Aerosmith, which
their best record.
Yeah, that and Toys, man.
Yeah, that's always the debate. Is it Toys or Rocks?
Yeah. And I'm a huge 70s Aerosmith fan, and Queen. Freddie Mercury and Brian May were big influences on that as well too.
Yeah, I have these conversations with you, and if I was sitting where you were, I would have been saying the exact same thing, because you just said exactly what I was into at that age. You know what I mean? I was into Kiss, I was into Queen, I was into Aerosmith, So I think we're probably about the same age. Yeah. We're both 70s kids.
I think you said we're both 70.
No.
I feel 70.
Yeah. We're working on it. Yeah. So guitar. When did you start playing?
I wanted a guitar more than anything. Like ever since I can remember, I wanted a guitar. And my mom sings and she plays piano and organ. And she told me guitar players are a dime a dozen. And my mom's always backed me up musically. But she said, if you want a guitar, you have to learn another instrument, And I was like, man. So my sister played drums she was 5 years old. She still is. And she played drums. So she had a snare drum. She moved up to a trap set. So I'm like, I'll just take this freaking drum, learn this so I can get a guitar. And I used to carry that to school, which was right through my neighbor's backyard, basically, Paxton Elementary School. And if you know the album, I'm Still Around.
Yeah.
The title track is autobiographical, if you want to call it, for lack of a better explanation. But that first line, as teachers used to say to me, boy, you don't know how to listen. You can't focus on things. You'll never be a musician. That is Noel Staley. He was like my elementary school teacher. Used to call me Scatterbrain. He'd go, Scatterbrain, you can't, they didn't diagnose ADD when we were kids. They just hit you,
Yeah,
so
right.
I managed to get kicked out of the band and get my guitar. But I got my guitar first, so at least I could stand in front of the mirror and look cool. So I'm probably like 7, 8 years old. I got my grandfather's World War II acoustic that had strings like this high off the neck, and it was impossible to play. And then my grandparents, my mom's parents, got me an electric guitar in 1977. It was like a Sears thing, whatever.
Another catalog,
yeah,
yeah,
you can
right.
actually play it. It's actually pictures of that.
Yeah.
It's pretty embarrassing.
Yeah.
But they got me that. And I was also very big time into sports, played baseball out through high school and basketball. So they were both kind of parallel. But I always loved music. And then I guess around junior high is when things really, really, I was still playing sports, still played baseball, but music, like, because we're the same age. The music was exploding,
Oh, yeah.
Def Leppard and
Oh, yeah.
Maiden and Priest and all that stuff was coming out. And I often talk about it. It was weird. Like, there was no hip hop really then. You were either like a rocker, or there was like Prince and Madonna.
Or you were like, we call them preppies, preps.
Yeah.
They were all into more of the pop stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you were either a head or a preppy.
Exactly.
That's what we call them. Yeah.
And I kind of cross-pollinated because I played sports too.
Yeah.
Even though I had long hair, I look like Spicoli, but I still played sports. So
same.
the ironic thing is, I like
me too. I hung out with the heads, but I played sports.
Yeah.
So yeah,
we talked about that.
Yeah. So it was like yeah. So I was kind of making myself into different, which I think was great because I wound up being friends with a lot of people as a result.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I love sports. To this day, I love baseball
Yeah.
and football and basketball and obviously boxing.
Yeah.
But that's when everything really grabbed the hold. And then guy Sam Noto, who's my uncle's age, he had a real PA system, a Sun PA system, and he took us around. We started playing Mayfairs and things like that. And Sam was really one of the architect of starting everything because you got to play in front of people. Yeah. It's funny. It's like I never got nervous playing in front of people. It felt natural. I get more nervous playing in front of two people than I would if I played in front of at times thousands.
Right, sure.
And that's what started it. And then my best friend Jerry, I met him when I was around 12. Great drummer. And then we took off, and he and I were playing clubs with Tony and Marty Connie and Carl Connie before them, their brother, and we were underage.
Yeah.
You'd have to wear a little wristband and sit at another table, and so we started doing clubs earlier on. And I've been going ever since.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny because I had I started working at the old Starview 92. I was 18 years old. Well, thankfully, I kind of looked older than 18 to begin with, but they came to me and they said, "Oh, we need you to host, this band at, whatever, the Sonic Garage or whatever."
Oh yeah.
Yeah. The Racehorse Tavern, which is still there.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't think my boss has realized. I'm like, you realize I'm not 21, right? And they're like, just wear your station jacket. Nobody will question you. So first time I remember going in and being underage and being like, they're going to card me. Like I was like sweating bullets. Like this is going to be so embarrassing, And I walked in with a station jacket. Hey, yeah. So when I was 18, 19 years old, I was getting into bars, you know what I mean, and seeing bands.
It was a little different then, though.
It was. They did not have the thing where they could literally swipe your ID. Yeah, you know what I mean. That was a lot different then. So, you first got on my radar with an early band that you had, Trouble Walking.
Oh yeah.
With Trouble Walking, and I loved you guys.
Yeah.
I loved you guys were heavy. I mean, you were playing
Metallica,
Priest. You were playing Master of Puppets. And that was all my vibe at that time. This would have been late 80s, early 90s, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Those are my brothers, man. And I just lost Marty. Yeah. Marty just passed, which was a total gut punch. And I'll get into that in a little bit. We talk about some of the projects we got going on. But those guys, someone that posted they said the unique thing about you guys is you all sang lead vocals and you all played bass and you all played guitar. It's because we were volatile. Nobody else wanted to play with us. I mean, we grew up together. So there was no I think you're playing that part. I was like, get your stuff. Those guys were older than me and Jerry. So we were we were definitely, I joke about it, but we were kind of like a gang that played music together because we hung together all the time. It wasn't just like, if you didn't have a gig, and back then, you remember the days, you could play 4 or 5 nights a week, those venues to do that.
Yep.
So if we didn't have a gig, we were either rehearsing hours, like 8 hours a day sometimes, or we go see, remember Savage Bliss, those guys, we go to see them, or we go see our buddies that were playing. And it was such a, I guess it still is communal in the area. I was blessed to be nominated for Album of the Year. and I went down there, and there still is that community. But
Yes.
like, I felt like I was 90, but
Yeah.
like everybody seemed like they were
Yeah.
12. But
Yeah,
you
the
know,
scene has changed a lot, but thankfully there is still a scene,
yeah,
you know, and I thankfully there is still, but yeah, to your point, it has changed a lot. Well, yeah, same thing back in those days. I mean, just through the radio station, I mean, I had to, I was in, I probably saw bands 5 nights a week. I had to, it was my job.
yeah,
Yeah, you know what I mean? We had it would be a Starvey night on a Monday night at this place, and on Tuesday, and then Saturday nights we'd have Starvey nights at 3 different bars. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
who's going to go where and host what band and whatnot, you know? So
yeah.
it's
And
funny. You and I had the conversation where I'm telling you about Trouble Walking, and I'm like, yeah, man. I'm like, you were in our Best of the Bands competition. You played the Village. And I'm like, and you're like, yeah, I kind of remember that.
They told me I had a hell of a time.
Yeah.
The funny story about Trouble Walking is my mom named that band inadvertently because we rehearsed in my parents' attic. And you've seen well, you knew us then, you know how
Yeah.
we looked.
Oh, yeah.
But I knew those guys even prior to that. We had a band called Rude Awakening, and their younger brother Carl. We were in a car accident. Carl was killed. It was a horrible, horrific
Yeah.
moment in my life, of which unfortunately I've had a lot.
Yeah.
But that was how we started with those guys. And my mom would always say, like, here comes Trouble Walking, you know, because jean jacket, long hair.
Yeah.
And our manager booked us, and it's funny, but it's not, because it's funny because it wasn't meant the way the way it came across. But we played the Jerry Lewis Telethon, and we're playing at the Colonial Park Mall at like 8:30 in the morning. And they're like, and now here they are from Harrisburg, PA, Trouble Walking. And at that moment, it hit me. I was like, wow, this is not good.
Yeah.
But it wasn't meant that way at all.
Yeah.
It was kind of.
That would have been on CBS 21 in those days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, God, we were playing in the mall early in the morning.
Yeah.
Old ladies are walking.
Oh, I'm sure. And you guys probably went out and just did your thing, right?
We toned it down.
Yeah.
There's video of it. I think we did Dreams I'll Never See. We did Taking It to the Streets.
Okay. Yeah. You didn't drop Master of Puppets.
We weren't doing Disposable Heroes.
Back to the mall.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We toned it down as much as we could.
Yeah.
But then same thing there. That day we went and played a festival later.
Yeah.
So we played multiple gigs in a day at times. you know?
Yeah.
And yeah.
You guys had a huge following. I mean, you could still find some Trouble Walking videos that are out there on YouTube and whatnot.
The Barge.
Yeah, and you guys had as you know, you had a really loyal fan base.
We did.
You had people that would follow you and go to your shows, and
we were blessed. I mean, we did, and we actually did a reunion in 2017, I think it was, and we're having trouble finding a venue. We were going to do it Galifty's, and they closed down for a little bit, right when we were trying to schedule it.
Yeah.
So I said, why don't we do an afternoon gig? We ended up doing it at Joe K's Brew House. Which,
Okay.
I don't even. What is it now? It's like something.
I couldn't even tell you.
Yeah. And Jerry was like, why do you want to do like a Sunday afternoon? I said, dude, think about it. Like, we haven't played together.
Yeah.
At that point, it was like 25 years or something. Like, people our age and older, plus they have kids that never saw us, plus those kids have kids.
Yeah.
It was the most people I think we ever drew. I was certainly the biggest payday I ever had because so many people came out, and it was we were home by 7.
Yeah.
It was nice.
Yeah, 'cause you got to get your beauty rest, right? At this age, right? Yeah.
But it was so crazy. We hadn't played together. Now, Jerry went with me to Bamboo Igloo, if you remember Bamboo Igloo after that.
Yep.
And that's because that fan base followed us to there, and then the people who were in that band brought their own people. I can't remember where I was
Bamboo Igloo, correct me if I'm wrong, but then that would have been like mid-90s.
Mid-90s.
Yeah, mid-90s.
Yeah. 95-ish, I think we got together, 94.
Yeah.
And that lasted till about 97 when Zero Gravity got together. And then we lasted for 22 years and probably would have kept going. We were very comfortable, very much family, but our drummer lost his job, and it was like we had to get a new drummer. So it's like, it's one thing if I have to play Sweet Home Alabama. It's another thing if I have to rehearse it. I didn't feel like going through all that again.
Yeah.
And we'd really, what we had done so much stuff. What didn't we do?
Right.
I mean, we were doing everything from Queen and Journey and Zeppelin.
Yeah.
And it's like we kind of I was kind of okay with it being over. Not that I don't love those guys. I do. They're family. And people talk about us having a reunion sometimes.
Yeah.
But we did everything that we.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It ran its course. Is that a good way?
I mean,
yeah.
22 years.
Yeah.
Longer than the Beatles were 8 or something
Right,
like
yeah,
that.
right,
You know what I mean?
right,
So
right.
I'm not saying that
Yeah,
I'm on
yeah,
anywhere
yeah,
on that
yeah,
level,
yeah,
but
yeah. So what was, when you look back at that, when you look back, whether it was Trouble Walking or Bamboo Igloo or Zero Gravity, like, is there an era or a time that you look back on most fondly?
yes. All of them.
All of them. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, if I was, there's all the bands are special to me, and like we did some, big shows.
Yeah.
All 3 of them. Trouble Walking will always be a special place in my heart because those guys they're my brothers.
Yeah.
So the guys in Zero Gravity, and Louis Savaglia is one of my best friends. He's my paisan. But we grew up, we cut our teeth together. You know what I mean? There was just
Yeah. You guys were a little rough around the edges. You guys definitely kind of were like a gang, man.
Yeah.
Talking about Trouble Walking.
Yeah, well, we were.
Yeah.
We didn't play weddings.
Yeah. No. Yeah. No.
No,
Yeah.
but I mean, I have fond memories of all of them. I
Yeah.
mean, we did. I mean, in Zero Gravity, all of us could sing.
Yeah.
So there's different aspects about that we could pull stuff off. Like we were doing Flat Bottom Girls, we were doing Journey, we were doing Kansas and stuff
Right.
that I couldn't do in other bands because not everybody else could sing. But there's fond memories from all of it. Bamboo Igloo, we did the first Millennium thing, that Harris used to do, and that was pretty cool.
Sure.
We had some labels come look at us, but I kind of fell in that range where I was too. Hair metal was like my era, but I was too young to really be in the thick of it.
Right.
And grunge really wasn't our generation. We were out of school and everything by the time that hit.
Yeah.
So it was a weird slot to be in. But
Yeah, that whole thing that went down in the 90s is, and it's funny. I tell people about it all the time, and especially younger people or like my boys or whatever. And I just say, like, you had to live through it to appreciate it. And I was working at a rock radio station at that time, but basically the grunge / Nirvana tidal wave, I mean, it just wiped out everything.
And it needed to.
Yeah.
It got a little.
It did. No, it did. The hard rock acts that were transitioning into the 90s, it had gone too far. But, like I tell people, I'm like, this is how bad it was. Iron Maiden played the Metron in 95. Iron Maiden. I hosted Dio at the Village at about 94.
I remember when he played the Village.
94 or 95.
Yeah, I do.
And thankfully, it all then came back around. So then 2002, I see Dio and Iron Maiden at Merriweather Post Pavilion. 18,000 people there. You know what I mean? So it didn't last. I mean, it was really bad, but it was really bad in the mid 90s. Basically, anything before 1992 was just the business just dried up. For all of these artists, everything. Yeah.
Because I experienced it firsthand too, because I was opening up for Quiet Riot and Jackal and Warrant and at Shakey's, which was cool. I mean, it was a great experience for me because you got to meet those guys and you got to play.
I was at the Quiet Riot show at Shakey's.
That was jam packed.
There's no way that place wasn't over the fire code that night.
No, in fact, I was playing with Warrant. Janie Lane, rest his soul. He was a wonderful guy. But we got Tony Bassi would always let us go on early because he knew we would play long and keep people entertained. So we go on early, and then it was the Lennox Lewis David Tua fight. Mm-hmm. So it was on for free. So we were done, and how there was really no backstage there, But I was sitting there watching the fight, and some guy goes, "Who's winning?" And I'm like, Lewis is killing him. And I look at Janie. I'm like,
hey, dude,
should you be back?
Right.
They played for like 30 minutes or something. And we played longer than they did.
Yeah.
But he was a good guy.
Yeah.
I was just talking to Greg on the Platzer on the way down. He told me to drop his name, of course.
Yeah. So we were talking to Greg Platzer of Greg Platzer Guitars. Hey,
there's your plug.
Will he be happy?
Yes, he will be.
Okay.
But he just was at that show the other day.
Yeah.
And it's funny when you meet some. I won't say. The guys I opened up for weren't necessarily my heroes. My heroes were Ace Frehley and John Lennon, Paul McCartney, and Steven Tyler and Joe Perry. But there was guys that you looked up to in the 80s when you were watching the videos. And you met Dio, I'm sure.
Yes.
But when I met Buck Dharma from Blue Oyster Cult.
BOC, yeah.
He's like,
Yeah.
when you meet
Oh,
these
yeah.
people, you're like,
Oh, yeah. No, yeah. Yeah.
and you're a big dude to begin with, but like, so there's,
Yeah.
so like,
Gino was, super good guy though.
Yeah.
He was unbelievably classy.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, wow, he's actually like just being unbelievably gracious when there were some other artists that were also hurting business wise. And man, they did not have a good attitude about it. I saw Peter Criss at the Chameleon.
really?
Yeah.
Not good
He was, I don't think he was in a real good place.
in his life.
In his life. And then he's playing clubs.
Was that when they thought that dude under the bridge was him? You remember? All that?
Yeah. No, it was after that. But and then I also hosted Peter Wolf, Jay Giles, also Chameleon. And this is a guy that's played in front of 100,000 people.
Yeah.
And here he's at the Chameleon Club in Lancaster. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't want to say he was a dick, but he wasn't. Those guys were struggling. You know what I mean? Like they're doing the club scene again. They're back at square one. You know what I mean? You know. So
we opened up for somebody who I won't say out loud because it's no need for it. But like I thanked them for opening up because although they weren't one of my favorite bands, I was like, hey, thank you for the opportunity. To open up for you. And he gave me like a dead fish handshake. And I said to him, I'm like, I'm playing the same club as you are, man. You know what I mean? Because he was just being that much of a jerk.
Yeah.
So I thought, well, I have delusions.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So we're both here.
Yeah.
At the same club. Yeah.
But he was the only one out of all 38 Special, the most wonderful group of guys I've ever met, and all the people I've opened up for.
Yeah.
They insisted Mr. Van Zant was still living, Lacey.
Yeah.
And
Dad.
Donnie and Don Barnes were like, we break bread with our opening band. So, and I usually don't like to eat before I go on to sing. I'm
just
full and
feel a little
worse than I already am.
Yeah, right.
And but they said, they insisted that we sit down and break bread, and it was like such a cool thing. Like sitting there with Donnie Van Zant, which obviously he's not Ronnie, but
still,
he's telling stories about his hats that he wears were Ronnie's hats, and we're sitting there.
I never knew that.
Yeah. And I was having vocal trouble at the time. As I was playing 4 or 5 nights a week, and I was losing my voice. And I was talking to Don Barnes as they're getting ready to go up the steps. And I said, how do you do this every night of the week? Like, I can't even speak sometimes.
Yeah.
And he goes, you remember that guy in the back? He's your boss. You never speak louder than what you're talking right now. And every road manager I've ever met is always like this big, but they think they're as big as you. You know what I mean?
Right.
And this guy comes out and he goes, God, come on. We got to get up here anyway. Yeah, hold on. And he finished telling me some pointers about my throat and how to take care of it.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was cool. He could have been like, beat it, kid, and go up the steps.
Yeah.
But he finished what he was telling me.
Yeah.
And told the road manager to wait for him,
Yeah. So, want to get into some of the stuff you have going on now, but I do want to go back to last year, 2024. And I'm just going to tell you that I knew your record, I'm Still Around, was coming out. And I believe it came out on a Friday.
Maybe it's October.
Yeah. And I was sitting at home on a Friday night about 10:30, and all of a sudden the light bulb went off in my head. I'm like, oh, I think Seneca's record's out. And thankfully you can find it on all the streaming services. So I put it on and I just ran it through my soundbar. And I mean, got 30 seconds into it. And I was like, this is amazing. Like the sound, the quality of it, and it just got better and better. And because I immediately went on social media and I was like, you listen to this record.
I appreciate
this. Is a great, and dude, when I tell you, this is not hyperbole. This is not me. I was thinking about this on my way down. It was my favorite record of 2024.
Well, dude, appreciate that.
Barring anything, any band, any whatever, to a point where the next day, which like a Saturday, I made my wife listen to it. That was October, you're right, because then, speaking of Iron Maiden, I went with my 2 boys, 24 and 22, I took them to Pittsburgh to see Iron Maiden. So we're on the turnpike going to Iron Maiden, and I say to them, I'm like, by the way, got this old buddy of mine, and I tell him who you are, everything, and I'm like, you gotta listen to this. I made my boys like, I didn't make them, they dug it. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, this is a really, really good record. And I was texting you then,
Yeah.
like even weeks later, going, I'm still listening to this record. Like, because a lot of times you might get into a record and for about a week, it's what, then you kind of get away from it. But just a phenomenal achievement. I know you got nominated for it by the Central Pennsylvania Music Hall of Fame, and as you should have. But I'm just here to tell you, man, like that is a amazing record, and anybody that has not heard it, check it out. It's on all your streaming services.
Oh, dude, I thank you so much for the kind words. I know you and I had talked about
it.
A lot of that's Mike Giblin and Red Chuck Studios. Mike, he's my friend, but I didn't get to meet him ironically through Greg is how I met him. And he goes, yeah, come down, you can record sometime. I'll, hook you up. And I've just been at this point in my life where I never stopped. I've just been writing like crazy.
Yeah.
Like I'm still writing, like got the new stuff that's coming out.
Yeah.
By the time Mike and I finished that record, I had a whole other record written. I like the variety of that. I like it's like what Mike want to call it? He wanted to call it ADHD boy because it's like squirrel or what they call it, squirrel.
But I loved the variety of it.
Well, thanks, man. I liked it too.
Yeah, there's great ballads. There's, dare I say it, obviously one of the things that you have an appreciation of that I also do. I love horns, and when appropriate, I love horns on a record. And I was always a big Chicago guy for that reason. You know what I mean? I love that. Yeah. There's a song that I think you could argue is disco on the record.
I tried to write it disco.
Yeah, exactly. And then, there's one that's just some of the best power pop, Rick Springfield-esque.
We talked about that.
Yeah.
I tried to write a Rick Springfield song.
Yeah, you did it.
Your honesty.
Yeah. That song is so good, man. There are so many earworms on that record, and I would go like for a while. I'd be in a phase where it's this song, and I just find myself walking around the house. But dude, I'm singing your choruses in my head. You know what I mean? So thank you for that, man.
Well, thank you for liking it.
Yeah.
That was a strange part for me because I'm putting. I'll get into this in a second, but like I wasn't in a band for it was getting to be like Greg and I tried to put a couple bands together. They didn't really last. People were doing different things. Well, all right, I'm going to do a solo album, which I'm like, dare I say a solo album? I haven't really achieved anything to have a solo album,
Yeah.
But I wanted to do what I wanted to do. I wanted to put songs down and not have to.
For once, this is not going to be a democracy.
Yeah.
This is my record. Yeah.
But it still wasn't a way because I'm blessed with, like yourself, so many good friends, man.
Yeah.
And whenever I would call somebody, because there's 3 or 4 different drummers on the album. Trent Sprinkle did most of the drums with me, my good buddy. But there was times he couldn't make it. I'm like, Mike's got time, so I'd call somebody else up, and Logan, who's playing with me now, Logan Gard, and he was on a couple tracks on there. And people showed up and helped and just played. And a lot of times people, I would send, like I did to you, I would send a rough so they could get an idea how the song went, and they would come in and have a part.
Yeah.
Glenn Hamilton plays on 3 or 4 songs in the album, maybe 4 or 5 actually.
Yeah.
So it was communal.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to because some of the songs would have got me beat up in my neighborhood. You know what I mean? If I was playing that when I was like 18 or something.
That's okay. You're not anymore. You know what I mean? Yeah. So who cares?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if I would have brought Your Love, which I think
I love that song.
I think it's one of the best songs I've ever written. I'm not trying to toot my own horn.
No, it is.
Shelby's vocal puts it over the top.
Phenomenal.
Yeah. Amy Simpson on there killing it.
Your Love. I mean, that song. I talk about this a lot on this podcast about. To me, the biggest thing with music, I associate music with emotion. Like it's all about emotion. And I mean, Your Love, it's just catchy as hell. But it's beautiful. It's great, man. Like, who'd you write that about?
Nobody. Honestly, there's some, a lot of times, and the songs I sent you recently, the one that's called, it's actually on there wrong. It's supposed to be Best That I Can. That's a personal experience, but like a lot of times, I tell people Stephen King's not a serial killer, at least that we know of.
Right.
But he writes books,
Yeah.
and you just you use your imagination.
Yeah.
That's the hardest thing for me at this point in my life, is what do I talk about?
Yeah.
I'm not exactly, like I've made the joke many times, like watching Columbo and going to bed at 9:00. It's a joke, but it's what I do a lot of times.
The funny thing is, I watched the same Columbo episodes like 300 times. I know. It's still on it. I know. It's still great. Yeah.
It's great.
It's great.
Yeah. And the Rockford
one more thing. Yeah.
Rockford Files.
Same. Yeah.
So, because I constantly come up with music, and I said it before when I did the CPMA podcast. To me, the guitar is like a magic box to me.
Yeah.
I've been playing it for so many years, but like I pick it up every single day of my life, and I play it. And I don't sit down and play covers unless I'm learning covers for a band that I'm in. I just play my guitar.
Yeah.
And 6 times out of 10, something jumps out.
Do you record while you play?
I use my phone all the time.
Okay.
I use my voice recorder.
Just in case something.
Yeah. And I get the idea down, because you can play, G, A, B one way, but you could do it with a different inflection. And you're like, how did I do that? And it's actually how there was a band out that never played anywhere because it hit during COVID. It was called Copper Circle. We released 3 albums on all the streaming platforms. One full length, which is called Sign of the Times, which is conceptual.
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, you never heard of it? You have to check this out.
Yeah.
So we couldn't, and this new band I have doesn't have a name yet, because it's never come up with anything that hasn't been taken.
Right.
And I would always send these voice recorders to my buddy Tony Dubois, and he goes, why don't we call the band Copper Circle? Because that's what I live on down in Lewisberry. And we said Copper Circle 1, Copper Circle 5, whatever. And I was like, all right, fine, it's probably not taken. So that's why we called the band that, because of the voice recorders. But I send, and it works out great, because look how long it's taking me to get down to do this with you.
Yeah.
Life gets in the way all the time at our age. But if I have a song, I'm like, all right, guys, we're going to go, and I'm recording with Mike Waskovich right now. That's where we're doing the new stuff. And MDW Productions, I think it is. Michael's awesome, dude. I worked with him at Ray Music.
I've been talking to him. He's going to be on this podcast. It's very soon.
Yeah, he says hello. I think.
Yeah.
They're actually working on some of the songs. Rich and Logan are working on stuff there now.
Yeah.
But I would send those guys all the roughs that I had. It would just be me singing into the phone,
Yeah.
But at least when they got there, we could get to work and we could get things done. I did it when I went to Red Chuck, because then people know where you're at. You don't want to get down there and learn a song. You already know where you're going. And just boom. And I love recording live.
Yeah.
I'm a huge Van Halen fan, and like the early stuff when they had Dave and they were just crushing it live.
Oh yeah, Ted Templeman just went go.
Yeah, exactly.
Q1 go. Yeah.
And because you lose, you said about motion, you lose the electric of the song. Like when you're all in the room together and you're cooking and you're playing, that tracking gets sterile at times.
Yeah.
So I like to record live. I also like to get things done early. Like if I have an idea, one of my favorite songs off the album is All I'll Ever Be, and it was the very last song I wrote for the album. It almost didn't even make it. It was going to be 10. Ended up having 10 songs. It was only going to be 9.
Another great hook in that song. Great chorus.
Well, I thought it was a little too 80s at first with all the keys and stuff, but Mike loved it, so
I love it.
Yeah. Thanks. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
But that was like a last minute thing that we did. And Mike said, but that was what Mike's like, let's cut it. Don't worry about if it, fits in with the rest of the album. I love working with Mike Waskovich, but Giblin is my buddy, because we would just go down rabbit holes and be like, we should put this reverb from R&B 60s studio somewhere. And,
I'm totally fascinated by all that, because that's something I've never done is organically make a record. And God love you, Brian. You're a humble guy. You're demure, but you're a fantastic songwriter. You're a really, really good songwriter.
Well, I appreciate that.
And I know, like, he'll joke and make jokes about, they almost kicked me out of school, and I didn't go to college. And
they did. It was kicked me out of
school. But screw all that stuff, man. You're a brilliant songwriter. You're a really good songwriter. You write things that I think people can relate to. And I don't know, maybe it's because we're the same age. You know what I mean? Probably there's some of it. Because sometimes I'm like, Yeah. He's talking about my neighborhood. He's talking about how I grew up. I just think it's great that here we sit at this stage of the game, this stage of your musical journey, and you have tapped into this just awesome fountain of creativity. It's great.
Scares the hell out of me because I don't want it to leave. You know what I mean? Because I don't think it I've been writing songs. I've been writing songs before I knew how to even really play. Because I'm just trying to make noise on this thing. I didn't know what it was, and there for a while, like all this stuff was just jumping out at me. And I'm not trying to say like it's all groundbreaking or something. Amazing, because it's not. I mean, we have a lot of great talent in Central Pennsylvania.
Yes.
Like, a lot of my buddies, Jelly Bricks and Martini Brothers and all those.
I mean, really talented people. Yeah, as talented as anybody in the business. Yeah.
Absolutely. So I'm not tooting my own horn by any stretch, but like a lot of this music was coming out of me. And like I just want to work. I want to get it done, and I'm not patient, Like I like so I'm like, let's get this done, let's do it. But things get in the way and everything. But like I'm scared to death because I was talking to my buddy Steve Nelson. I'm like, I think I'm getting writer's block. He goes, we wrote 400 songs. And right. But I don't want it to stop.
Yeah.
To keep going.
You're hot, man. You got the dice and you're hot.
Yeah.
You just want to keep rolling. Well, things are. One thing I wanted to ask you about. And I was thinking about this on the way down. I was listening to one of your songs. I mean, on top of obviously, vocals and you're a great singer, but you're a guitar player. I think probably as much as anything, you're a guitar player. And solos in songs, how do they come about? Like, how, and do you write the solo to fit the song, or is it just a feel thing?
Well, it both ways actually.
Yeah.
Like on the album, Platzer played a couple solos on there, and he's a really good tasting player.
Yeah,
he's really tasty.
Yeah, I we give him a hard time, but
he deserves it.
He is a great guitar player.
He's a very good guitar player.
Yeah.
So it depends. Like back when I was in Trouble Walking, or excuse me, Bamboo Igloo. Back then, like we were recording on 2-inch tape, and I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's expensive. You know what I mean? And we recorded in the green room or somewhere else.
I bet you I still in a bin somewhere have a couple of your CDs.
Yeah.
Bamboo Igloo, I'm sure I do.
Yeah. Well, I know, but like you would play gigs enough to have money to go in to a session, so you wanted to be ready to go when you went in.
Yeah.
So like sometimes I would construct a solo and know where I wanted to play. The new songs I sent you, every one of those was off the cuff.
Yeah.
Because like Waskovich was like, what do you got planned? I'm like, I got nothing, just let the tape roll.
Yeah.
The beautiful thing is you can loop it and just keep going over and come up with ideas. But I really tried to, like the one song on there, best that I can. There's like will be a different kind of what's called a mode in guitar playing, and I don't know it. I just use my ear. But I wanted to have some kind of Indian flavor to the solo. I don't know why, because it doesn't have any kind of thing, but that's what I was hearing in my head.
Yeah.
So I just found the notes on the guitar and used my ear, and I went along off the cuff. I have to learn that solo because I don't know what the hell I can do.
Yeah.
So sometimes, and then sometimes it can just be inspirational, or maybe you want a certain fire, that you just kind of go with it and go off on it. But like that, I mean, I think I'm a serviceable guitar player. I try to write what fits the song.
Yeah.
And those guys are working tonight, and I said, I've been trying to get with you to do this. You got my complete trust and confidence. Go do your check, and if I don't like it, believe me, I'm going to say something. Yeah. But if somebody comes up with something in a song that I didn't come up with, and it makes it better, who cares? That's what you want, you know.
Yeah.
And I wrote these. There's actually 4 songs. I think I only sent you 3 with the new project. It's heavier. Mike Giblin wasn't going to be available, and I had these songs, and I was like, I wanted to keep working. I kept writing, so I got with Waskovich, and he said, "Yeah, come on out." So I wanted this to be a band project. I wanted that feeling of being in a band again.
Yeah.
So these songs were previously written, or written as we were doing this, but I would send it to Rich from Zero Gravity. He's playing in the band. It's me, Logan, and Millhouse. He was in Emily's Toy Box.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And he was with Darcy Minor.
Yeah.
Great bass player.
Sure. Yeah.
And they're such good players that they just came in, and I'm very proud of my solo album. I'm proud of everything I did, but I like being in a band. You know what I mean? I became the lead singer out of necessity because I just happened to be able to sing better than the other guys in Trouble Walking.
Yeah.
So actually, it was Rude Awakening. It was when it started.
Yeah.
But like I don't mind. I don't mind. I like singing harmony as much as I like singing lead. And Rich is like my right hand man, so I know he knows what he's doing. So if somebody can come up with something to make it better, like if Rich plays a solo tonight and it's better than the one that I cut, that's the one that's going to go on the recording.
Yeah.
You know, he won't, but
If by some miracle.
He's my brother.
Yeah.
I'm just joking.
You know, it's funny because you know, when I listen to your stuff, especially when I listen to the solos that you work in, of course, I'm always keyed in on. And this is just me, man. My role in all this is the fan, and me as a fan, I hear the Kiss influence because
without a doubt,
I hear because Ace Frehley solos fit the song. They were different lengths, but generally speaking, he didn't do anything that was, you know what I mean? Like it was the best that he could do, and it was kind of short and to the point, but it also fit the song.
Yeah,
and I think you do a really good job, or whether it's Greg, but I think you do a really good job of fitting solos to the songs.
Well, it should. I mean, even though I grew up in the generation where tapping and doing all the crazy stuff. Actually, when that stuff was big, I couldn't actually play that stuff yet. I can now. I went back and tried to master a lot of that stuff. I got thrown in the mix to sing and to play rhythm guitar with Tony, with Carl and Jerry, and Tim McCartney rest his soul as well too. So I was in there because I could sing. That was my ticket in.
Yeah.
And I could play rhythm guitar. So, and I didn't have to worry about playing a lot of the hard leads until later on. It covered a lot of that stuff when we were in Band with me together. But yes, a solo shouldn't just be like, maybe throw little jabs in there of like, stuff that's impressive, but it should fit the solo. Ace, 100,000 Years is one of my favorite solos he ever did, you know what I mean? But there's nothing in there that's, but it just fits the song.
Yeah, it does.
I mean? Shock Me is one of them.
Yeah. We'll be here all night if we start diving into Kiss. Guitars you play, guitars you have, guitar collection. Curious here. Which guitar is your baby?
I'm a Les Paul guy.
Yeah. Do you have one in particular that? Yeah.
I have a 1952 Les Paul Gold Top. It's an actual 52 Gold Top that I bought from my buddy years ago. I don't play it out too often because if I break it, or if it's stolen. If
it's stolen. I mean, how people are now.
The first time I played it out, we were at Double K Tavern, which is no longer there anymore. It used to be the Fight House. And I love playing there all the time. We always got a good crowd. This biker comes up to me. He's like 6'9".
Yeah.
Like a massive guy.
Yeah.
And he comes up, he goes, "Is that a 52 Les Paul?" I said, "No, it's a historic makeover. It's a replica."
It's a Japanese copy. Yeah.
And he was like, "Man, that looks real."
Yeah.
And because I'm thinking like, this dude wants me to be his girlfriend. I got nothing to say about it. You know what I mean? Like, he's massive.
Yeah.
And Rich walked by me and went, whoosh. I'm like, I just had to think on my feet because so I don't take that out too often. I recorded, it's on the album. It's on All Right By Me. It's on a couple other things. But I'm first and foremost a Les Paul guy because of Ace Frehley.
Yeah.
I wanted a Les Paul and I didn't even know why, but like he played it. Then I seen Jimmy Page playing one, and I seen Joe Perry playing one. So I'm thinking like, well, this must be the guitar that I need.
Yeah.
So Les Paul first, but on the new tracks I sent you, I'm playing an SG on there. I'm playing a Gretsch Sparkle Jet on there, which I like a lot.
A Gretsch, interesting.
Yeah, the Gretsch is a badass guitar.
Really?
It's just snarly and it's a Sparkle Jet too, so it looks really awesome on stage.
Yeah, I would say the guy that probably most famously always played a Gretsch was Malcolm Young.
And Brian Setzer.
Brian Setzer, that's right. Yeah. That's cool, man.
Yeah. And, I have a Telecaster that I like a lot. And I have a Strat because I'm a huge Jimi Hendrix disciple. I love Jimi Hendrix. Do you play guitar?
I dabbled in it.
So there's different pickups. There's what's called humbucking pickups. So like I love Strats, but like whenever I've always been in a 2-guitar player band, and when I play a Strat live with a 2-guitar player band, I feel like I can't hear my guitar, like I drop into the mix.
Yeah.
And then I thought for a while, I'm like, all my heroes that play Strats were just 1-guitar player guys. And not that Clapton's my hero, but like Clapton was one, Stevie Ray.
Yeah.
They all played Strats. They were one guitar player band. So Rich used to always, he and I'm so glad he's playing in a band with me again because he's like family. And I don't have to think with him. I know he knows where I'm at.
Yeah.
And I know where he's at. he's always tried to not only play at different spots in the neck, play something different sonically than I'm doing. He also would play a different guitar a lot. So if I'm playing a humbucker, he would be playing a single coil. He has a couple directions too.
Right.
And we're very conscious of that. So it's not just a big ball of noise, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
So thank you for texting me some of the new material. And you were like, "Hey, this is not the finished product. This is not
they're scratch vocals. They're not even done vocals.
Yeah.
They're scratch vocals.
Yeah, yeah. So when are we thinking we're gonna have something new for the masses?
We'll probably have new material before there's a name for the band.
Yeah, right. How about the Brain Seneca thing?
Well, you know what? It's funny you say that. Millhouse wanted to call it Seneca. And I don't feel comfortable doing that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get why you would maybe not feel comfortable doing that.
I mean, I wrote the songs, but like I want it to be a band, you know. Like if he's like, well, nobody else is going to have the name, you know. And I'm like, well,
true.
It might be a good point.
Yeah.
But very soon, and something I'm really, really proud of is my buddy Dave Kelly. He's my friend, man. Like Dave,
who about 9 days ago sat in that very chair. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, we fumigated it. Yeah. He was wearing an outfit from the 60s that literally looked like it was from the 60s.
He is a wonderful guy.
He's the best guy.
Rich Van Deeper always says, I talk to Dave and I feel like a better person after I
he's like the evangelist of rock and roll.
His whole family's that way.
Yeah, he's such a great guy.
And those guys were from my neighborhood, but technically they're from Lanker Manor. See, we got this road called Wilhelm Road that separates Wilhelm and Lanker Manor from my neighborhood. Yeah. So that we all grew up together, but like we had different baseball teams. So you went to school together, but you didn't want to lose to those guys.
That was big in the day.
Yeah,
I know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But Dave's older than me, much older than me. And so he was with the guys that were playing like Mayfairs and things like that when I was just picking up a guitar and trying to learn, Firehouse. Or something like that.
Right.
And but he heard the solo album and he's said some really nice things about it.
Yeah.
And said, I want you to record and come record in my studio. You can do it for free. I said, well, I had plenty of songs written, but I didn't have Back of My Neighborhood written.
Yeah.
So I said, why don't we do a song and we'll get your brothers on it. And I'll get Jerry and Marty and Tony as the core band. And we'll get everybody that we can from our old neighborhood to play. Sam, we got Sam Noda to come back. He's living down in Delaware now.
Yeah.
Came back up to play on the project.
Yeah.
And I wrote the song. And it basically wrote itself. I grew up in the best neighborhood in the world, man. Like you could walk down Paxton Avenue where I grew up, and in the 70s you had Bennett's Pharmacy, which there's a line there that said when Midge traded baseball cards. That's Midge Underwood. She was the lady that worked behind the counter.
Yeah.
Which still has my gum under it somewhere.
Right.
But Midge was a short lady, and her sons were older than me, but we hung together and everything. And she knew what was going around in the neighborhood. She was like your mom away from home.
Yeah.
She would buy packs of baseball cards, and I'd be like, man, I need like a Gary Maddox for all the Phillies, and she'd trade me like Jim Duffy or something.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
just for Gary Maddox, just so I could get,
just so you can get it.
Yeah, and she'd have a stack of them underneath the counter. Talk about the Lanker Manor pool. Like we go up there in the summer. She had a card, and Bennett's. You had the municipal building to shoot basketball. You had a dentist, you had a doctor, you had the Paxton Grill, which is still there. It's on the cover of my album.
Yeah.
Across the street from that used to be a grocery store when I was growing up. And then you had the bowling alley and Dirty Dan's Garage. You had everything you needed in 2 blocks of my neighborhood. You didn't even need to get into a car, really.
Yeah. It's a really, really, really cool song. And it's back in my neighborhood. And I can't wait for people to hear it. I think people are really going to dig it. And obviously people around here will really be able to relate to it. Yeah. People, especially, where you're from. There's a line in it. Because I just heard it for the very first time on my way here.
I bet you I know which one it is, because it's Dave's favorite line.
It's something to the effect of, my out-of-school suspensions overshadowed my good intentions. Dude, that's a brilliant line, man.
And it came right out of me, too.
My out-of-school suspensions overshadowed my good intentions. To the point of where you sang that, and I went, and I actually grabbed my phone, and I went back about 20 seconds. So I'm like, I got to hear that shit again. I'm like, that's good. That's great songwriting, man. Like that's, to me, I just think that's, and I'm going, Yeah, I can totally relate to this. Yeah. Because I had some out of school suspensions myself. Yeah.
I was a freak.
I was never. I wasn't. I wasn't a bad kid like you. We talked about this.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't a bad kid. I never stole anything. I never did it. But
I stole a couple girls.
yeah. There you go. Yeah. Broke a few hearts, sunk a few ships. But but you know, like
we didn't have video games.
Yeah.
You had to find something to do.
Yeah. I was a 15-year-old derelict. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. You know, it was just knuckleheaded kid. Yeah.
Well, the thing I loved the most about that recording was Jerry couldn't show up to play drums, so Logan played drums on there. Tony was really sick, so he didn't want to be around his brother to compromise him because Marty was on oxygen and he wasn't doing well. Marty was the only one that got there out of my brothers from my original band.
Yeah.
And his sister Lisa brought him there, and I said, I'll bring him home. There's a double guitar line at the beginning of the solo. Ding, 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 ding. That's Marty and me. And awesome. Marty, I said, play something. He goes, nah, man, I'm rusty. And he had it tough for the last couple of years. He was not in good health.
Yeah.
And I said, just play something, man.
Yeah.
You know, and so he came up with that line, and we grew up loving Thin Lizzy, man. We played a lot of Thin Lizzy, so I came up with like a double line to play with him as we're sitting there, because we did the main part, and then Sam did his part, and Dave's brother played bass, and Dave's brother John played guitar, Dave's brother Steve played organ on it and everything. So they're doing that. Marty and I worked out that double lead line. I took him home that day, and we lost in 1 month from that time.
I've seen pictures from that. I think you posted, either you or Dave Kelly did.
Dave
from that session, and sadly, by the way, I know we've texted, but you know, obviously I knew Marty, and, you know, but for you, sorry for your loss. Sorry for you know, I know he's going to have a lot of people that knew and loved him that will be watching this episode. So yeah, big loss, man. I know you took it really hard. Yeah.
I'm still taking it hard, man.
Yeah.
I never put a suit on for a wedding. And, you know what I mean? Like, when we get dressed up, it's not a good thing. But he was my brother. I mean, there's so much more than just a friend. So much more than a friend. All those guys were. I mean, we grew up together. We cut our teeth together. We ran the streets together. You learn more than music, you know? Like, I mean, I just, and losing him. After we did the session, I talked to my buddy Bob, and I said, man, Mark's not looking good. But I didn't think we were going to lose him in a month. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't think it was going to be like that. And it's just like, I think it's a gift from God that he was able to be there and play that line with me. You know what I mean? And I just, that means more than anything to me about that song. That's the last moment I spent with him. Was making music. Just like the old days in the back then.
And it's a great song. It's about growing up. It's about where you grew up, and really cool that you had some childhood brothers.
And then Dave said something when we went back to lay the horns on with Rags, and and he knew that Marty had passed, and he goes, you know, you have that line in there. When you write, sometimes in order, like I said, I wasn't valedictorian by any stretch of the imagination, but I think if you're going to be a songwriter, you need to have a vast vocabulary. You need to have a grasp of the vocabulary, because sometimes you have to get across an idea, and you have to make it fit. Phonetically, is that the word I'm looking for?
Absolutely.
Or something to fit in there, but you have to be able to convey your thought with different words.
Right.
So, you know, sometimes you got to think that way. And the one line in the beginning, it says, "I feel like I made it, while some of my friends have faded from this life." Is how the line goes. And I'm saying I was going to lose Marty, but I've lost so many friends from over the years. You know, his brother when we were 16, and Dave said that, you know, felt like it really hit harder now that we lost him in that time. But like, I do feel like I made it, because, you know, like, I mean, I'm not saying I made it like the big time or nothing, but like, you know, I could have easily went the other direction. And, you know, my mom was starting to send me to military school and Catholic school and stuff. And a lot of my friends, you know, I mean, I still love them, and my brothers, I don't look down my nose at anybody, but, you know, some of them made choices.
I didn't go to college or high school. I didn't have, my grades were not good. When I finally did go to college, I had to start a community college at, you know, the Lancaster branch of Hack. I get it, man. I think my parents spent several nights going, what are we going to do with this kid? He's just, this is not, you know, and you know,
And my
it all works
sister
out.
is 5 years older than me and never got in trouble. Never, got straight A's. I had to follow her through school, and they'd be like, "Were you adopted?" I'm like, "No, I got the look. She got the brains." But like, yeah. So and I talk about it like I just thought I hated school, but like looking back, I brought this up before, but like they didn't diagnose like attention disorders. No,
There's no such thing.
no, they just hit you and told you to pay attention, and and that's what it was. So I just thought I hated school, but like I never even noticed until I was an adult. Like if you give me that book on Rush, I will read it and absorb everything I can because I like Rush.
Yeah.
But if you give me directions to put a shed together, I'll be putting that shit together sideways, upside down, with the wrong screws, and I'll still have parts left when it's over. You know what I mean? And like that's when I noticed. That's when I noticed I had issues because like I'm like, what is this the way it's screwed? It looks weird. It looks backwards, and it was just like they just told you to hit you, and they hit you and told you to pay attention.
Yeah.
In fact, people have told me. Like, I don't even know how you can play guitar because you can't, they can't focus,
Yeah.
If I like it, I can,
Yeah.
With sales, people will say, oh, you just, because, Jerry would always say, oh, he calls me the salesman. Every band I've ever been in, I was the one who would talk the radio or do whatever. And he's like, that's because you're the salesman. I'm like, no, I'm not really, man. It's just like sales is easy to me because like I do what my mother and father told me. Treat people the way you want to be treated.
Yeah.
Listen to people. There's no tricks to it. You just listen to it and try, try to do the best by people. I had a guy tell me one time, he came in and they were about my mom and dad's age. It was my long day when I was at Ray Hall the first time. And they walked in and we had a 6-foot rule before COVID. So I was like, hi, I'm Brian, welcome to Ray Hall. He goes, we've been working with Rose. The lady said that. And I said, well, I'll help you for Rose. We're a team, we work together, we work along. He goes, the old man said, look, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm a car salesman. I said, that's fine, sir. I don't like customers. We're going to get along just fine.
Wonderful.
His wife says, I like you. She goes, don't take his shit. I said, I'm married. I'm not afraid of him. And I ended up selling him a car, and they sold it for Rose. And she, ironically, the weird thing, she went to high school with my mother. And I tried to take my mom to lunch or something once a week or whatever, and she told me, I can't remember the lady's name. But why make it like it's already a big decision? Just treat. That's the way I try to live my life in general. I'm not afraid to punch you in the mouth either. But you know what I mean? But like if you're a good person, good things come back to you.
Not to be the guy that that's a great story. Now I'm going to tell you mine. But so when I was in high school, I worked at Wise Markets, and anybody that knows that when you work with the public, I mean people can just be evil for no reason whatsoever. So I was back in the days when we would actually bag groceries. Remember those days? So I'm bagging groceries, and the woman had bought like a National Enquirer, and so it came down, and I folded it in half and put it in the brown paper bag. Brown paper bags. And she was already just being a bitch, right? So then she looks at me and she goes, she pulls the National Enquirer out of the paper bag and she opens it up. She goes, you don't fold newspapers, honey. Clearly, you don't need any brains to work here. And I looked at her and I went, you're right, you don't. We're hiring if you go to the customer service desk.
Did you get trouble for doing that?
Oh, she was so mad. Yeah. But I was like, I'm not going to, like, you might be having a bad day, but I'm not going to let you just like curse me and chew me out. Like
that's ridiculous.
Yeah. So, but anyway,
I know. I'm a car salesman because I have to be. Because I work for a great company and I like what I do. But like, what's lying going to get you? You know what I mean? I'm not smart enough to lie. I'm not. I remember everything I did, and I had a lot of fun in the 80s and got punched in the head a few times, so it's hard to remember a lot of stuff. I just never believed in that in any capacity. Why lie? Because then I just got to, I got to remember everything I lied about.
Right. The truth is always just, you don't have to. There's the truth. You don't have to remember what the lie was.
Exactly.
The yes story you told somebody. All right, so we call it the final four. It's the last four questions that I'm going to hit you with. And normally, a lot of times I will text the guest who's in the hot seat these questions before I throw them out. And I forgot to do that with you.
I'm ready.
So we're gonna do it live.
What do you do when you come to a yellow light?
For those that don't know, that's Jim Ignatowski. from Taxi.
Slow down, Jim.
Yeah. Which that's another show that I still stream and watch.
I know.
And I know right, exactly. And I'm still in love with Mary Lou Henner.
Oh,
Desperately in love with Mary Lou Henner.
she was gorgeous.
Oh,
Still is.
Yeah, still is.
Evidently, she has some kind of thing where she can remember every
She
second
can.
of her day of her life.
Yeah. She has some crazy ability where if you say to her whatever, she'll. Oh yeah, it was a Tuesday. It could be like 1968 or
Yeah,
it was
great.
a Tuesday. It was in it. Yeah, she's got some. So
She's got some.
she's got some.
You went up here with it.
She's Mary Lou Henner. What can I say? Yeah.
Very buoyant.
Yeah, right. Very buoyant. Let's put it this way: when I was 11 years old, I wasn't watching that show for Tony Danza. That's for damn sure. Certainly wasn't Danny DeVito either.
Yeah.
But at any rate, okay. So final
Sitka.
four. Yeah. So, for those who don't know, Laka's wife. Okay. Final four. Final four questions that I'm going to hit you with. You can only pick one.
Only pick one question there?
No, you can only pick one answer to this. Your personal favorite band or artist of all
The
time.
Beatles.
Okay. It's going to lead into question 4 pretty well. So we'll hold off discussing that until we get to question 4. Second question that I have for you is, what is the one song that you wish you would have written?
Huh. That's really a tough question now that I'm thinking.
I came up with this all on my own, Brian. These are the kind of things that I do when I stare at the ceiling.
You know, I want to say yesterday, but to stay away from, I mean, that's an obvious choice. Dream On.
Oh, that's such a great, yeah. That's one of the, I always talk about, there's certain songs, and whether, I worked in rock radio for 8 years. There are certain songs I have probably, and some of you, I have heard Dream On, literally 50,000 times. You know what I mean? And when it comes on the radio, I still turn it up and I listen to it the whole way through, and I'm in a better mood once it comes on. I love that song.
People slag Stairway because
Yeah.
it's been,
Sure.
number one. Remember, they used to have these things on Starview.
Yeah.
They do was it like 4th of July weekend?
Yeah, we do the top 500.
Yeah.
And it was always number one.
But I tell people,
Yeah.
like, I love to cook, so I'll make dinner and like sometimes I'll just say, "Hey Siri, you play whatever."
Mhm.
But if you ever just listen to Stairway and listen to it for what it is as an experience, it's an amazing piece of work.
It's an
It really
amazing song.
Yeah, I mean, people get so caught up with the overplayability of like Zeppelin 4, but if you could go back in 1971 at our age and hear that for the first time,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
there's a
Yeah.
reason.
Yeah.
It's what it is.
Yeah. We had our music director at Starview, and he's still a buddy, but it's Mike Tyler. And I was a young DJ, and something had gone wrong with one of we literally played CDs. There were times when we actually still played records because certain things weren't on CD. But something had gone wrong on one of my shifts, and I was going, I couldn't, whatever. And I'll never forget Mike Tyler, the music director at Starvey. He looks at me and he goes, Don't worry. He goes, if they're just play Zeppelin.
Yeah.
He goes, just play some Zeppelin. He goes, the backup plan for anything if something's not working,
Plays that.
just play Zeppelin.
Were you
Yeah.
a KRP fan?
Oh yeah, I love that show.
that show.
Yeah, love that show.
Chai Chai Rob
Yeah,
was.
I love that. It's another one that it still pops up on like one of the antenna TVs or whatever.
Yeah.
I'll record it and I'll.
I got
I'll
the whole series on
You got-
DVD.
yeah.
When Andy Travis came
Yeah.
and he opened up
Yeah.
that Kiss poster
Yeah.
when we were kids.
The thing is, and people back in the day asked me this a lot. And look, we're there. It's almost like a nurse watching ER. Were there things about WKRP that were not realistic about working in rock radio? Of course, because it was a TV show, a scripted TV show. But a lot of that was
Spot on.
A lot of it.
And real music too. Like
Yeah.
I was watching one the other day, and Animals is on.
Yeah.
Pink Floyd, the big
Oh,
guy
yeah.
goes, "This is
Yeah.
Pink Floyd."
Yeah. Third question. You can have, and it doesn't have to be from music, from any walk area of life. You can have lunch with any one person, dead or alive. Who would it be?
Mary Lou Henner. That's
Yeah. Okay.
Oh,
Sold. Yeah.
man, dead or alive, huh?
Any one person.
My father again.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a fairly common response that I've got to that question. It's either mom or dad for obvious reasons.
Miss him more than anything.
Yeah, and as we're recording this, it's the day after Father's Day, so that's always a tough day for anybody. I'm so blessed. I spent the day with my dad yesterday, and 80 years old, and
Yeah.
yeah, I'm getting a little choked up talking about it, but I literally wrote in his card that I gave to him, I'm like, because we're the age we're at, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I have so many friends that don't have their father anymore, and I literally wrote in his card every day I just, I'm so lucky that you're.
My mom's 86 and knock on that wood for me. She's doing great.
Yeah. It's like, I'm so happy that here I sit in 2025 and I'm still having a father thing with you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's, I know.
Cherish him.
Yeah. I know, man. I know. Final question. Beatles or the Stones?
Oh, Beatles. Not that I don't like the Stones.
Yeah.
But the Stones are a band that I like. There's era of Stones I like. From there's early stuff I like too. But like Beggar's Banquet to when rock and roll is my favorite era. Although I do like Tattoo You because that was big. Like there's some great songs.
I love that record because it also came out when I was 11 years old.
Yeah,
so,
I went to the theater at the East 5 Theater at the East Mall. And I saw that on the TV screen. And I didn't know Keith Richards played in open tunings. So I've been playing guitar at the time, and I'm trying. It was such a big screen to see it.
Yeah.
And he's playing these.
Let's spend the night together. The movie.
Yeah. And he's playing these chords. What damn chord is that? It's not a chord I know. I didn't know he tuned the guitar open, at the time or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the Stones are great.
Yeah.
But I mean, how can we talk with the Beatles? I mean, I almost got in a bar fight with a guy when I was in Bamboo Igloo. I was up at the bar getting a beer.
I mean, the one time that you almost got into a fight and actually did get into a fight.
Well, no,
Yeah.
because I was right.
Yeah. Right.
But I said to the guy, I said, look, I don't even, he's like, you guys are pretty good. He goes, what's the best band in history? I said, well, the most important band is the Beatles.
Yeah.
Oh, bullshit.
Yeah.
Zeppelin's way better than Blah. I said, no, they might be, I'm not talking musicianship.
Right.
But the Beatles are the most important band
in
the history of popular music.
Yeah.
I don't even think it's disputable.
It's not even close. Yeah.
No.
Right.
What they covered in really essentially because they did Abbey Road and in '69.
Yeah.
So and they recorded Please Please Me in '62.
Yeah.
So it's technically 7 years. That they're like Muhammad Ali in sports.
Yeah.
Or Michael Jordan. They transcended everything.
Still the greatest, still the legend, still the
Yeah. I mean, they did it on. I don't know how much you know about recording. You do. They did it on 4 and 8 track recording. Like they looped 2 4-tracks together, and they did something. George Martin,
their producer, sure. Yeah.
But they did something like A Day in the Life.
Yeah.
In 1967. They did Tomorrow Never Knows with like tape running around pencils and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I wasn't such a Beach Boys guy, and it's what people don't realize. And Brian Wilson just died. Is that there was this thing going back and forth between the Beatles,
Pet Sounds and Pepper.
Yeah, Pet Sounds and Pepper. Like, oh my God, yeah. It's interesting. When Brian Wilson got into the Songwriters Hall of Fame, Paul McCartney did the induction speech.
Oh yeah, they definitely pushed each other.
Yeah.
I think the Beach Boys pushed them further than the Stones ever did.
Without question.
Yeah. But yeah, I was never a huge Beach Boys fan.
Yeah.
And you know what? Pepper's not my favorite Beatles album.
Mine either.
There's great tracks on there that I like.
It's actually it's pretty far down the list for me.
Revolver and Abbey Road are at my top, and they flip flop like Rocks and Toys in the Attic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's it has its moments.
Yeah.
And when I was in Zero Gravity, we used to open the show with Pepper and a Little Help.
Yeah.
And then we would end the show with the refrain.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. We used to play without breaks. We would go on at 9:30 and we would play all night long.
Like Day to Life.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Actually, Giblin showed me something. You know the chord, everybody knows that.
Yeah.
In A Hard Day's Night. Yeah. That was played like separately. It's not just played like a G major, minor, something, whatever. He showed me this video that they broke it down. I'm like, that's the way they played it. He goes, yeah. I'm like, wow, I thought it was always just this,
Yeah.
Yeah. Nobody tops them in my book.
Yeah.
I'm very Aerosmith 70s is a very close second. Queen 70s is a close second. Um, I mean, Zeppelin's up there. I mean, they're great. I don't downplay them by any
Yeah,
stretch.
right.
They just didn't influence me as much as
Right.
like, Steve and Joe just look cool. Like I
Yeah.
remember going to see Sergeant Pepper movie
Yeah.
at the East 5 Theater again.
Yeah.
And like you couldn't see Joe and he had like a cigarette hanging out his
Yeah.
mouth. And I was like 8 and I'm like, that's what I want to do.
Yeah. Right.
They just look so cool and
Right.
they had that raunchiness,
Yeah.
to them that I really appealed to me.
I always talk about it in the like reference to Zeppelin and people, the greatest bands, like Zeppelin or whatever. They're in the conversation. So if somebody says to me, "Well, I think Queen's the greatest band of all time," like, that's cool. Like
Up to 1980.
Yeah.
After that, they lose.
But be like they're in the conversation. Like I get it. It's when I literally had a dude one time, and this guy worked at the radio station. He tried to sell me on the idea that the greatest rock band of all time was Fastway.
They did like 2 records, didn't they? Really?
Which was Pete Way from UFO. It was his side project. He's like,
Say What You Will. That was a good song.
Yeah, that's good too.
Yeah. Fast Eddie Clark.
Yeah. Fast Eddie Clark. But anyway, he's trying to tell me that Fastway is the greatest rock band of all time. I'm like, dude, yeah, like that. I'll hear any argument, all of it, but this is absurd.
Well, it's funny too because like we were talking earlier, like when we were in middle school, junior high. Like I didn't like Prince because he was like anti-rock at the time.
Yeah, right.
He wasn't cool. He was weird, little androgynous or whatever the word is.
Right.
I love Prince. He was a brilliant musician.
Guitar player.
Yeah. So I like, even like it's crazy. Like I guess a guilty pleasure. Come On Eileen, man.
Yeah,
I love
yeah.
that song, man. Like when I hear it, I'm like, it's a good song. I mean, it's a little stupid, but it's a good song,
Yeah.
And things just change, but like I go into these moods with Zeppelin too, where but the Beatles, I'll be listening to like Revolver, or I'll start it Please Please Me and I'll play them through, and then I get tired of it and I stay away from it for a while, and then I come back when they do something new, and it's like rediscovering me again. I'm like, God, it's so damn good,
Yeah, I always say everything old is new again. Yeah. Like I'll go back and rediscover stuff all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I recently just went on a run where I was like, the only thing I'm listening to is the first 5 Black Sabbath records. That's it.
Oh, dude, the first 6 are killer, man.
Yeah.
They're also very
blueprint.
Very, very big influence on me.
Yeah.
Because I could learn those riffs. I could play Iron Man with 2 fingers when I was a kid,
Yeah.
But man, Master of Reality,
Yeah.
Sabotage.
Master of Reality is phenomenal.
Yeah, that's my favorite.
Yeah, me too.
Into the Void.
Yeah.
So many good songs
So
there.
many too.
Lord of this World.
Yeah.
It's like they were just so far ahead.
Ahead of their time. So far ahead of their time.
There's the luckiest guy in show business, Ozzy.
Yeah, how about it?
He never wrote lyrics. Once in a while, I think he wrote the riff on.
He wrote a lot of melodies.
Yeah,
but he never wrote lyrics.
He's not by letter of I am either, but he's not by letter of the law the best singer there ever was. But he's actually on the first album pretty bad sometimes.
Yeah.
But it was his voice that added to their spookiness.
Yeah, and then of course he wound up with Sharon, who basically ripped everybody off.
Basically.
Yeah, and Words and Music by Ozzy Osbourne when Bob Daisley was writing. Yeah, exactly. So that's a whole other different story for a different time. But I would say this, the flip side of this is, and I'm sure you have, you ever see Ozzy live?
I saw Sabbath reunite at Hershey. It was at 99 with Godsmack opening up.
Yeah. I saw him at Hershey too.
And it was hot as hell that night.
Yeah.
And I went there. I never saw Ozzy played the Forum when we were like 12.
Yeah.
Like with Randy. It was on the Diary tour. I have the program. My mom wouldn't let me go.
Yeah.
Remember at the time.
I was too young to walk on too. Yeah, right.
Stuff like that. So and I didn't see my buddy went to see Dynasty tour, and I wasn't allowed to go to that either. 79.
Right.
But I went to see Sabbath at the arena.
Yeah.
Or the outside. It was the outside stadium.
Yeah.
The girl I was with at the time wasn't a Sabbath fan.
Yeah.
And I went there being a huge Tony Iommi fan. And I left there being a huge Geezer Butler Bill Ward fan.
Yeah.
Like they were just killed it.
Yeah. I saw Ozzy solo a bunch of times. I went to a whole bunch of Ozfests and everything.
Jake E. Lee era or after Jake?
After Jake. I saw him primarily
Zach.
With Zach, who's also fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
But Ozzy's a great live performer. say what you will, his voice, whatever, like he's all of that stuff, you know, and then I love you all, like it works, man. Like he say what you will, but on stage, like he knows how to command a crowd.
It was funny though,
Yeah.
like you're right, and I agree with everything you're saying. I'm just laughing because when I went to see that show, I remember having pictures of him like from like Hit Parader and Cream back in the late 70s or 80s. He's doing these really big jumps. But when I went to see it, you know,
he's like in the crowd's down, like he's gonna do this big jump.
Yeah.
He literally like get that far off the ground. Yeah. Okay, Oz.
It's
Must be time to stop doing the leaps.
It's criminal that they don't have more, and maybe they do. That they don't have more footage from live shows with Randy. Like I know they didn't know Randy was going to die, obviously.
Yeah.
But like I've seen like really grainy like videos.
Yeah, there aren't very many good ones at all.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Because when they had the castle stage,
Yes.
that was badass.
It was.
Yeah.
And
like I said, they didn't know Randy was going to pass out.
Yeah.
I remember when that happened.
Yeah.
I remember when Stevie Ray Vaughan died. They thought it was Eric Clapton at first because it was supposed to be Eric's seat.
Yeah. I still remember where I was working at the radio station at the time, so it was obviously a really, really big deal. Same thing. I was at Starby when Kurt Cobain died. It was, 24 hours of Nirvana. Well, look, dude, we could go on and on.
I'm sorry.
We already are like, if you and I, two old idiots walk into a bar.
You think the second one would have seen it?
Steve and Brian, and they sat there for 5 hours. Breaking down Zeppelin 4. Yeah, exactly. So, dude, great conversation. Come back again sometime.
Absolutely. Well, maybe I'll come back with the guys.
That'd be great.
Yeah, bring the everybody in to talk.
And the one thing I want to tell you, and this is totally sincere. Even don't take this the wrong way, but even I was a little surprised by this because I started when your record came out. I started putting stuff up on social media, just saying. And I remember I told you, I was like, it's a great record. Congratulations. My goal now is to just get people to hear it because I think it's phenomenal. And I know when people hear it, they're going to dig it. I just know, it's a great record. And kudos to you all these years in the area. You've got a lot of people that love you. You've got a lot of fans, man. You got
blessed, man.
Yeah, you got a lot of people that really, really.
I have friends.
Yeah. And I put up in like all these comments started flooding in on my social media post about, oh, we love Brian, and people that I didn't even know that you knew, that I knew. Like, you know what I mean? It was like, oh, okay, you know what I mean? So,
Melanie and I have this agreement, like, because like I was a widower when she was a widow when we got together.
Yeah.
And when we first got together, I was zero gravity, was still kind of young, and we were still getting without paying a cover charge, those kind of things,
Yeah.
And people always go, like, Seneca, what's going on, man? What's up? And she would be like, there's something you don't introduce me. I'm like, look, between selling guitars and selling cars and playing in a band all my life, if I don't introduce you, I don't know who they are. Yeah. So like, so now we have this thing where she's like, hi, I'm Melanie. Because if I don't, and it's not, I'm not trying to be a
right. No, I know. Same thing happens to me all the time.
Yeah.
These people will meet me somewhere and I try really hard. I'm sure you do too.
Yeah.
You're a people person. I'm a people person. And, and like literally it would have been like 15 years ago in a bar.
Yeah.
Late at night.
Mm-hmm.
They remember meeting me. You know what I mean? And it'll be like, dude.
And they have a 16-year-old kid.
Yeah. Yeah. So you have a Melanie. I have a Stephanie. That's where I go. Let's have this conversation. But it was like same thing. And I'm like going, I call up my Rolodex.
Yeah.
And I'm going, oh my God, name. And yeah. So same thing. Sometimes I'll purposely like, hey, this is so-and-so, whether it's a buddy or my wife or whatever, just to get them to go, hey, I'm George. And I go, I've known George for a long time. Yeah.
And it's not just for music. Like, I was at Ray Hall for 7 years the first time. I was at Faulkner. And, I was at Ray's all those years. When, like, I knew Rags from him going in Ray's, but we never knew each other by name. I'm sure Gimli went in there. Because Mike went to East where I went. And I was looking up and he had East letters. And I'm like, go to East. And he was in my sister's class.
Yeah.
And he knew all these people that I knew. So Ryan Somer,
Yeah.
It used to be in the Syndicats. I just
Yeah.
told him a pilot. He goes, "How do we never meet each other?" And I don't know, because we
We
were
were probably both playing different
clubs.
playing different clubs.
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah. They had a big following too.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
yeah. So, all right, man. Well, we ran out of tape. Thanks for being here. Yeah, but they're giving us the rap.
Yeah.
We're getting the hook.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah. No, dude, great conversation, man. Thanks for taking the time. A lot of fun. Come back. Looking forward to what's in the future. Can't wait for people to hear your new music, man.
Well, I'll bring Platzer with me next time. Do you have a
Yeah.
high chair?
Yeah. Yeah. I cheered a bit for Platzer. Yeah.
Still love that one.
Yeah. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you, man.
I appreciate it. And thanks, everybody, for lasting with us and
Yes.
tuning in to another edition of The Night Shift. We'll see you next time.
Nice.
That was so much
Thank
fun.
you so much, man. That was outstanding. Thank you.
Yeah, that was so cool.